All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here again, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. And another special guest today. Just people are flocking to this channel to be on. It's just crazy, right? Uh, I have this good problem where people want to be on the channel, and I say, hey, come on in. We've got special guest today. His name is Brian Barnhouse. Brian Barnhouse. He's got a brand new album out. It's called The Same Ride. Brian, how are you, buddy?
Very good, David. I'm very good. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm, like I said before, I'm just grateful to be alive, and it's a crazy time to be alive, but you know what? I got a front row seat for all the chaos.
It is, yeah. And I just want to start off real quick, David. Thank you for doing this interview. There's just so few people, especially in the U.S., that cover melodic rock or will even give it a chance. So it's just wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, it's you know what? It is truly the least I could do, right? I am in a lane. It's a kind of a unique lane. I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but I like to have people on who I consider to be good at what they do, maybe a little on the underdog side. Maybe in the old days, they would have gotten a bit more exposure than they are getting today. So I want to tell a quick story about, I got your CD in the mail, right? And it was really badly damaged. It had like the USPS, right? They just didn't do their job right. Being as I'm in Florida here, it's like 100 degrees at noontime, and the CD was in the mailbox on top of it. So I go grab the CD, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to get this a new case. And I had a couple of cases kicking around. It's had a bad crack in the front, and I just, I'm gonna show this off behind me over here on the table eventually. So I wanted to look presentable. So I took the inserts out, right? And I'm trying to get the back insert though out, and that gray piece that's in the original CD is stuck. And it's almost like it's glued in there with crazy glue. So I did my best, but Brian, the thing literally exploded into like 30 pieces.
Oh, no.
I've never seen this happen in my life. I had CD shrapnel all over the floor. My wife was like, what happened in here? I said, I had a CD explosion, So I put it back together again, got this translucent case. I upgraded the case, no charge whatsoever. So when the audience looks behind me, they're going to see this brand new album with the artwork going down the road, But this is a really great album. We'll talk about the album, but I want to talk to you about, you talked about there's not a lot of people in the industry that are really supportive of this kind of stuff, especially here in the United States. Tell us about like your roots, how you got started playing music, and why are you still doing this? It's kind of an uphill battle, right? I mean, you and I, you reached out to me a number of years ago when you had another album out there, and I listened to this and I'm like, yeah, I want to Brian on. This is some pretty interesting music here. So tell us about your history so people get to know why you're still doing this.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I joined my first band clear back in 1988. We were a cover band. I had just graduated high school. That cover band turned into me joining. Well, back then you could actually go play covers across the country for like 5-6 days a week, and so I joined a couple full-time cover bands way back when, and traveled around for until about 1995, and then I wrote my first song. I sat down with a guy named Rich Whalen, that was the lead singer for a band named Rays that I was in, and that was in 1990, and that's when I helped write a song with Rich. And really, since that point on, I really only wanted to do originals. Covers were just a way to go get gigs.
Yeah.
And so from 1990 on, I've been pretty much focused on just writing songs. And so that turned into a band called Mother Tongue. We put out an album that was pretty successful regionally. And so then Mother Tongue went on the road. We ended up signing with a management company called Barth Turner Management out of Denver, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Barth section of that was Bobby bars from the band Axe.
Mhm.
And so that's how I got affiliated with Bobby. And the deal with Bobby was when Mother Tongue signed with Bobby, we were supposed to, not only was he managing us, him and Kenny Turner, I believe was the other guy, and they would book our gigs and all of this. But the deal was is that we were going to do an album with Bobby at some point.
Yeah.
And that fizzled out. We never did that album. And so years later, a buddy of mine, Jim Genrick, was listening to the radio, and Rock and Roll Party in the Streets came on. And I told him that story, years ago about doing that album with Bobby. Hey, Bobby Bars is on the radio, Axe is on the radio. And that was the incentive I needed to reach out to Bobby again. Hey, Bobby, you want to do another album? And that's how my first album, Clarified, came about. So I reached out to Bobby. Bobby was super cool about it, said, yeah, let's do an album finally, blah, blah, blah. And so, and so that's, he was living in New Orleans at that time. And I went down to New Orleans and stayed with him and did that album, Clarified. So then after that, I got the bug in me, and I just been trying to put out an album every couple of years if I want to or not,
Right.
I think it's now I don't think I have a choice in the matter anymore. It's something that I love to do. It calls me now. I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a song I did, and I have to go, record it real quick on a voice tape thing. And so I just there's not a lot of attention on this style of music anymore. Maybe over in Europe a little bit, but certainly not in the US. And so it's really more of a passion project, I'd say.
Yeah. Now, as far as a style here, and this is I would call it an 80s, maybe early 80s AOR kind of sound. Now you play lead guitar and keyboards, and you do pretty much all of the instrumentation on this, or how did that work out?
Well, I actually, with my band Mother Tongue that I mentioned before, I actually toured with a drummer named Jeff Johnson, so a friend of mine, and we toured together for about 2.5 years, played hundreds of gigs together, and he actually ended up drumming on this album, and will also be drumming on my next album too. But so I knew the drummer Jeff for years and years, and so it was nice. We've done a bunch of demos together, so it was nice to get him on this album. And then, my main influences when I look back is definitely Rick Springfield, Old Bon Jovi, and Night Ranger. Those are my 3 big bands that I'm really influenced by. And so, of course, Matt Bissonette plays bass on this and does keyboards and backing vocals and co-produced this album with me too. And so I reached out to him. He has a website. I just went to mattbissonette.com and used his contact form. I said, hey, I'm a huge fan. I know he co-produced 3 albums with Rick Springfield, And so I reached out to him, and believe it or not, he answered me back in like 6 hours or something. It was unbelievable. I thought, well, I'll send this off, and I probably won't ever hear back from him. And then he replied 6 hours later, and me and Matt have just hit it off. I consider him a friend now, a personal friend. We talk and chat all the time, and he'll definitely be on my next album as well. And so, that's how this one came about. It's just kind of a fluke that, the worst he could have said is no. That's how I kind of looked at it, And so, and so that's how that happened.
That's really cool. I mean, I listen to this and I try to take notes sometimes because I forget, but I definitely hear, I do hear the Bon Jovi influence. I also hear like Corey Hart. I don't know if you've ever been told that. I hear Aldo Nova a little bit here and there. 707, if you remember that band, I hear some of that. But you kind of have, this, I don't know what inspires you on these songs, but there seems to be a great struggle going on in Brian's life. It seems like there's some woman or something or some, these songs, I mean, they pack a lot of emotion. You know what I mean? These aren't just like, hey, I'm driving down the road and there's a hot chick on the side of the road. I'm going to write a song about cruising in my car or something. This kind of hits you in the gut a little bit. Is there any reason for that? Is that just the way you write songs, or? What's
Um,
the
I try to have a story or a meaning behind every song I write. I don't necessarily like generic lyrics, which seems to plague the melodic rock, arena a little
yeah,
bit. It's a little too generic for me, which I know you're supposed to do too, technically, but
right.
but I do try to have a story behind the songs. A lot of it, I'm an observational writer, and really, luckily, I seen an interview with Bob Seger years ago, and they were asking him, geez, these songs are filled with so much emotion. How, are these all personal stories? And he said, no, I'm more of an observational writer. I'm really kind of boring, and I can totally relate because I kind of live a boring life. I don't go out too much, but I am an observational writer, and I do try to write from that perspective as much as I can. So, and there's some songs that are personal, I should say too. The Same Ride is definitely a personal song on here. A couple others are too, but as a whole, I'm observing my world and trying to write about it.
Yeah. Well, hey, you and I have a lot in common. I'm an observer. You're an observer. So it works
Oh, yeah,
out.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Hey, there's a little connection there. So yeah, The Same Ride was a song that it's a title track on the album, kind of hit me a little bit because I'm looking at the world right now in a broader context, and a good song tends to kind of go where it needs to go for that particular individual. You may have written it for another reason, or you had this specific topic in mind, but we all know, we kind of personalize a song. And I'm thinking, we are all kind of on the same ride. And it is kind of the way you do production, there's a lot going on in this record. There's again, the guitar work, which I'm assuming you're playing all the guitars on this.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so are you primarily is that you're an axe slinger? Like if you were to get up on stage, you're the guy who's going to be playing lead guitar for the most part, or do you dabble in some other instruments?
Mostly guitar. I've been a lead guitarist for years and years. And like I said earlier, I was in cover bands for years and years, going on 30 plus years. And so, I've covered all of the greats, and I've always tried to do them justice when I played them live too. So I'm really fortunate in that sense, where I have quite a bit of history playing the Van Halens, the Randy Rhoads, the Vito
Yeah.
Bradas, so I was forced to learn these songs as close as I could, and so I think that helps me today, where I can play a little bit, So
Yeah, well, like you say, though, this is becoming a bit of a lost art form. One of the things I noticed too about this record is you pay homage to the intro. Like you've got intros. All right. A lot of the stuff I hear, it comes out of Europe, and I like it all. Back in the day on radio, the intro, man, was so important, not only to the song, but to the radio programmer who had to talk over that intro, prior to when the voice kicks in. That's called hitting the post. I don't know if anybody cares about the terminology, but it was an art form to stop what you were saying right before
right.
the vocalist started to sing.
Yeah.
And I hear these intros on this record on some of these songs, and I'm like, man, he gets it. There aren't a lot of guys that kind of take that and still make that apart. Maybe because nobody's introing, you know what I mean? Nobody's talking it up. So you can just bang into the vocals, or not, have a 3-second intro and you're talking, or you're singing rather. And do you do that consciously, or is that just you enjoy that kind of stuff yourself? You grew up on Tommy Two-Tone and all this great intro stuff that used to hear on the radio that is pretty much gone now.
Yeah, I think the point. That's a great point. I haven't heard someone explain it like that before, but I definitely remember that with radio. I'm a fan first,
Yeah.
So I definitely remember growing up and listening to the radio, and they would speak to the very last microsecond, like you said. I always thought that was so funny. But anyways, intros to me have always been, is there? I once seen this show on TV, and I can't remember what it's called, but they would name that song, and they would play like a half a second or a second of an intro. And to
Yep.
me, that always stuck with me, that intro is how a lot of people recognize that song immediately. And
Yeah.
so that's always been consciously important to me to have recognizable, have intros, have recognizable intros, you know, so just so people can have a chance to relate to that song a little better.
Yeah. The show, by the way, was called Name That Tune.
Oh, name that tune. Yes.
And
Okay.
I used to watch that religiously, and I used to always congratulate myself, you know, but I can name that tune in one note, you know, and it'd be like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it'd be like, no. But some people, you know, you have an ear for that, and it's a real recognizable song. And again, it creates a hook, you know, that then, you know, that hook tends to reprise in the body of the song in different places, and you know, your guitar soloing over something, and you bring that theme back in, or that, you know, the note combination that you started at the beginning. This is what really great songwriting is all about. How long did it take you to make this album?
It took me a little longer than what I wanted. I had a couple health issues that kind of slowed things down. So, you know, I was working around that. So it took about 3 months longer than what I wanted, but as a whole, probably around 5 months, start to finish, if you take out the medical things I had to deal with. So,
right. Is this expensive to do this yourself?
It's not horrible expensive. There is some costs, of course, in it. I try to get good people around me. So, you know, especially with this album. And I think with this album, when Matt came on board, I knew that I was going to go, you know, I was going to spend whatever it took to get this album out, because I thought I had the songs were good enough to put out a really good production album, which costs money. You know, I got Billy Decker to mix the album. He's out of Nashville. He's mixed like, I don't know, 15, 16 #1 country hits. And so I got a really good mixer, got a really good co-producer with Matt, who's just an extremely talented person. And, you know, Jeff on drums. And so it does cost a little money, I guess, to put it that way. So, yeah, but, you know, that's part of it. I really don't think of my albums in terms of, am I making a profit? I probably wouldn't put out anything if I saw on those terms. So, yeah.
I hear that. So when are you playing out still, and are you playing this music when you play out?
Yeah, no, I'm not. This is really a separate project. I still do an occasional reunion gig with my old band Mother Tongue. And in fact, we're actually playing in September. But no, I haven't even thought about forming a band and going and playing live. I'm not sure if there's even a call for it. You know, I don't. I can't think of any club. Well, there's a few clubs I know that has original bands play, but you know, like 4 people show up. You know, it's kind of sad.
Wow. Yeah, you know, and we talked a little bit prior to the video about, you know, I put out content like this, and people are they're more interested in, you know, the latest gossip or my opinion on some, you know, major band that they grew up listening to. And I get that, but I'm also a big fan of people that are trying to keep the genre alive. You know, you read headlines, you know, like, hey, rock is dead. And, you know, the Grammys, they don't even put rock on as the category. You know, it's not televised, they hide it and all this stuff. And it can get a little depressing. So, Brian, you must really like what you do.
You know, Dave, like I was saying earlier, I don't think I have a choice in the matter anymore. It's something that I have to do now. And that's cool. Yeah, it makes me happy when I put an album out. You know, it gives me a sense of satisfaction that I'm doing something with my life. So yeah.
Well, I mean, have you ever reached out to any of these other record labels, like the ones overseas, and said, hey, would you guys be interested maybe in doing some distribution for me? Or is that just, you don't really care?
Well, I have, is I did reach out to Escape Records, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And they were actually going to sign me, but we couldn't come together on a release date. Like this particular album they did want, but they couldn't release it until October. And so that was just, I didn't want to wait, you know, 9 months. I'll have my next album done by then, you know. So that didn't work out, and I haven't reached out to Frontiers in a long time, which I love both those labels.
Yeah, those are the two best. Yeah.
I would love to be signed to Frontiers. That would be great, you know. So I don't know if that'll ever happen, but yeah, those are two great labels that are putting out great product. Yeah. So
yeah, well, you know, I know a couple of people over at Frontiers, so I can definitely throw your name out there and see what happens. But
well, thank you, David. Yeah, I'll be a lot nicer to you now too.
I won't get you up as early to do the video, Brian. I'll let you sleep in some more. In any event, folks, this album, it's out there. Brian, you have a website people can go to if they want to get a physical copy of this, so that maybe they can play it in their car.
Yeah, brianbarnhouse.com.
All right, that's easy enough. But it's like Barnhouse, like just the way it sounds.
Just how it sounds. Brian with an I.
It's a recognizable name. It would have been a great name for a big time rock star. Brian, Brian, the alliteration and the Barnhouse, you could have had like a Joe Walsh theme going, like Barnstorm. You could, I don't know, man. I'm losing it here. But hey, man, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
You're one of the good guys out there. They're plugging away, just like I'm trying to plug on the videos here. You're plugging away with the music, and this is why I do what I do too, to hopefully get the word out about the few people out there that are still trying to make this kind of music.
Yeah, well, I sure appreciate your time and effort too, David. Actually, you put out great content. I watch your videos all the time. In fact, there's a couple of times where I said, "Man, I wish you would allow comments on his videos," but I'm sure you don't want to deal with that. That
is probably a subject for another video. But I did all that stuff for a while. Didn't go well for me in some regards. So people ask that all the time. They say comments. I have Patreon if you want to hang out over there for $1 a month, or I can be found on some rogue social media sites. I just don't do a lot over there. I find it to be very tedious, and it just takes away from the other things I'm trying to do, and then I get wrapped up in all the drama.
I hear you.
People making fun of me or calling me names. So I'm just like, what? It's just easier that way. I need to, unwind and have time with, the wife and kids. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, Brian, thanks for coming on, brother. Best of luck. Can't wait to hear for the next album, because I hear you're already working on one, right?
Already about half done. Yeah. So writing wise. So yeah. So
all right.
Yeah, thank you, David. I'll send you a copy of that one too when it gets out. So,
and I'll make sure I get the word out. So yeah, this will be going on display behind me here with my wall or my shelf of new or popular albums that I'm trying to tell people, hey, you should check this out, right?
I know. Cool. That's very cool.
All right, Brian, take care, brother.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, man.